10 years after burying her father, Zena's world stood still when her phone rang with a name she hadn't seen in a decade. Dad. Her hands shook, her breath vanished, and what she heard on the other end wasn't a ghost, it was worse. The truth behind that call unraveled everything she thought she knew about her family, about love, and about the man she had mourned for years. What started as a haunting call ended in a decision that no one saw coming. Zena was just 17 when her whole world changed. Her father, Olare, died in a terrible accident, or at least that's what everyone said. He wasn't just her father, he was her hero, her biggest supporter, the one who always stood by her side. Whenever life got hard, it was Olare who lifted her up with just a smile or a soft word. But after his sudden death, everything around Zena turned cold. Her mother, Tara, became distant and harsh. The warmth and love that once filled their home disappeared overnight. Zena felt alone, but she held on to one thing, her father's phone number. For 10 whole years, she never deleted it. Every time she looked at her contacts and saw the name Dad, a part of her heart ached. But another part felt comforted, like he was still close somehow. That number became a symbol of everything she missed, the safety, the love, the understanding. Sometimes, when she was sad or overwhelmed, she would open his contact and just stare at it. She never called, she never texted, but she also couldn't let it go. Keeping that number was like holding on to a piece of him. No matter how much time passed, Zena couldn't forget. The pain stayed fresh, hidden behind her calm and intelligent face. She had grown into a strong young woman, but that loss had carved a quiet hole in her heart that never fully healed. And though the world moved on, Zena's heart never did. That number, that name, was still there, always there, waiting, like a ghost that refused to fade. What she didn't know was that one day it would ring and change her life forever. One quiet evening, Zena was alone in her small apartment, packing her clothes for a big trip. She had an important job interview abroad, and this was her chance to start a new life, far away from all the pain and memories. She folded her favorite shirt, zipped up her suitcase, and took a deep breath. Everything was going according to plan, until her phone suddenly lit up. She glanced at the screen, and her heart stopped. The name Dad appeared. Zena froze. Her hands started shaking. Her father had been dead for 10 years. She had never deleted his number, but it had never rung. Not once. And now, it was calling. She stared at the phone as it rang, not moving, not breathing. A million thoughts rushed through her mind. Was this some cruel joke? A mistake? Someone trying to hurt her? She couldn't answer. Her fingers felt frozen. The call went to voicemail. Then just as she started to calm down, the phone rang again. The same name. Dad! This time her heart was beating so loud she could hear it. Her throat went dry. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she picked up the call. "Hello," she whispered, barely able to speak. And then she heard it. A deep, calm, familiar voice. "Zena, you need to know the truth before you leave." Her blood turned cold. That voice, it sounded exactly like her father. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Her legs went weak, and she sat down quickly, staring at the floor as the words repeated in her head. "You need to know the truth before you leave." But before she could say anything, before she could ask who it was or what they meant, the call ended. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. Zena stared at her phone, her whole body numb. What truth? Who was that? And how did they know she was leaving? That night, sleep never came. Something deep in her heart told her this was not a joke or a dream. It was real, and somehow her life was about to change in a way she could never imagine. Zena sat still for minutes after the call ended, the phone still in her hand. Her heart was racing, her mouth was dry, her brain was trying to understand what had just happened. That voice, it wasn't just similar to her father's. It was Olare's voice, the same calm tone, the same warmth. It was a voice she hadn't heard in 10 years but could never forget. A voice that used to tell her bedtime stories, that used to say, "I'm proud of you," and call her, "my little star." She felt dizzy. She opened her call log and stared at the number. It had come from the same contact she had never deleted, Dad. Still shaking, she pressed the call button, desperate to hear that voice again, to understand what was happening. The phone rang once. Then a robotic voice said, "This number does not exist." Zena blinked. She tried again. Same result. The number was gone, like it never existed at all. Her heart pounded harder. Was she dreaming? Was her mind playing tricks on her? Or was there something much deeper going on? She got up, grabbed her jacket, and rushed to her mother's house. It was late, but she didn't care. She needed answers, and only one person might have them. When her mother, Tara, opened the door, Zina didn't waste time. "Mum," she said quickly, "I just got a call from Dad's number." Tara froze. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, her face turned completely pale. She looked like someone had poured cold water over her. Zina saw fear flash across her mother's eyes. Not confusion, not sadness, fear. But Tara quickly masked it, forcing a smile and shaking her head. "Zina," she said gently, "grief can play tricks on you. Maybe it was a dream, or your phone glitched. It's been 10 years. "No, Mum," Zina said, her voice firm. "It was him. I heard his voice." Tara looked away, her hands trembling slightly. She repeated, "It's just your mind. You miss him, that's all." But Zina knew her mother was hiding something. She could feel it in her bones. Something wasn't right. Her mother's reaction wasn't that of someone hearing something strange. It was the reaction of someone caught off guard. Zina left the house more confused than ever. But one thing was clear. This was not over. That voice, that message, it meant something. And now she couldn't rest until she found out what. Zina couldn't sleep that night. Her mind kept going back to that voice, her father's voice. It felt real, too real. She knew something strange was happening, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. The way her mother reacted also added more confusion and fear. She needed help. She needed someone she trusted completely. So, early the next morning, she went straight to her childhood friend, Kasimu. He had always been the smart one, the tech genius. If anyone could help her find out the truth, it was him. Zina explained everything. The call, the voice, the number disappearing, and how her mother looked scared when she mentioned it. Kasimu listened carefully, then nodded. "Let me check it out," he said, already pulling out his laptop and connecting a few devices. He asked her for the exact time the call came in and the number it came from, even though it no longer existed. Luckily, Zina had taken a screenshot of her phone when the call first appeared. Kasimu started typing fast, his eyes locked on the screen. Minutes passed in silence, both of them tense. Then suddenly, he stopped. His face changed. "Zina," he said slowly, "this call didn't come from a normal line. It was routed through a private network. And look at this." He turned the screen toward her. Zina leaned in and saw something she didn't understand at first. A location pin. Kasimu zoomed in and whispered, "This is where the call came from. A secure compound in a small town called Adudu." Zina's eyes widened. That name. She hadn't heard it in years. Adudu was the same town where her father's funeral had been held, where they had said he died in that road accident. But something clicked in her mind. There was never a real death certificate, only a vague explanation, a rushed burial, and a family that moved on too fast. Her heart began to race. "Why would a call that sounded like my dad come from there?" she whispered. Kasimu looked at her seriously. "I don't know, but something isn't right. And if you really want to find the truth, that's where you need to go." Zina felt a mix of fear and determination. Whatever was waiting in Adudu, she had to face it. Her father might not be dead after all, and the answers she had searched for over 10 years might finally be there. Zina packed her small bag quietly. She didn't tell her mother where she was going. She didn't even tell Kasimu. The only person she trusted now was her best friend, Amira. Before leaving, she slipped a short note under Amira's door. It said, "I'm going to find the truth. If I don't come back in 3 days, tell Kasimu." She used her savings to buy a bus ticket to Adudu. The journey was long and dusty. She didn't sleep much on the way. Her heart was heavy, but her mind was focused. All her life, she believed her father had died in an accident, but now, everything felt like a lie. If there was even a small chance he was alive, she had to find out. When she arrived in Adudu, it felt like stepping into a forgotten world. The town was quiet, with narrow paths and old houses made of mud bricks. People stared at her, a stranger with a city look. She asked around carefully, not trusting anyone yet. Then someone pointed her toward a small wooden hut near the edge of town. "Go see Marco," the woman said softly. "He knows things." Zina walked to the hut and knocked gently. An old man opened the door. His eyes were sharp and his hands trembled slightly. "Are you Olare's daughter?" he asked in a whisper. Zena nodded slowly. Mako looked around nervously, then pulled her inside. He never died, Mako whispered. They just wanted him gone. Zena froze. Her heart beat faster. What do you mean? She asked. Mako didn't answer with words. Instead, he opened a box and handed her an old envelope. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a photo of her as a baby, in her father's arms. On the back of the photo, her father had written in his clear handwriting, "Zena, trust no one wearing red beads." Zena stared at the photo. Her mind raced. Red beads? What did it mean? Who were they? She looked up at Mako. "What happened to my father?" she asked. Mako sighed deeply. "That truth is more dangerous than you know, but you've already come too far to turn back." Zena returned to her hometown with her heart full of questions and anger. Her hands shook as she unlocked the front door. Her mother, Tara, was sitting in the living room, sipping tea like nothing had happened. Zena dropped her bag and stood in front of her, eyes filled with pain. "Tell me the truth, Mama," she said softly but firmly. "Where is Dad?" Tara's face went pale. Her teacup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. She looked away, but Zena didn't move. She repeated, "I know he didn't die. I went to Adudu. I met Mako." Tears filled Tara's eyes. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled. After a long silence, she finally whispered, "I didn't want you to find out like this." Zena sat down, shocked by the words. "So, it's true?" Tara slowly nodded. Then the whole truth came out like a flood. Years ago, Olare, Zena's father, had discovered that Tara's family, a powerful and feared clan, was involved in serious crimes. Land grabbing, money laundering, and even silencing people who knew too much. When Olare tried to expose them, they panicked. He became a threat. They planned everything: the accident, the fake burial, and the story of his death. They even paid off officials to hide the truth. Tara was caught in the middle. If she spoke out, they would have hurt her and Zena. So, she stayed silent. She let her daughter believe her father was dead all these years. Zena couldn't hold back her tears. "You let me cry for him every year. You watched me save his number for 10 years. Tara wept too. "I was scared. I thought I was protecting you. But now, I see I was just weak." The room was heavy with silence. The truth had shattered everything. Zena stood up slowly. Her voice was cold but calm. "You didn't protect me, Mama. You betrayed both of us." As she walked away, Tara reached out, but Zena didn't stop. She had the truth now, and even though it hurt, she knew what she had to do next: finish what her father started. Zena packed her things and returned to Adudu without telling anyone. Her heart was beating fast, her hands cold with fear and hope. She didn't know exactly where to go, but she trusted the words of the old man, Mako. She walked through narrow roads, asking quiet questions, showing the photo her father left. Most people turned away, scared, but one old woman pointed silently toward the hills. Zena followed. She walked for hours until she reached a quiet, hidden place surrounded by trees. There, behind a small broken gate and a rusty fence, was a tiny house. Her legs shook as she stepped closer. She raised her hand and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Then the door creaked open slowly. Standing there was an older man, thin, with grey hair and tired eyes. He looked at her for a long time. Then his lips trembled. "Zena," he whispered. Zena gasped. It was him, her father, Olare. Tears poured from her eyes as she ran into his arms. He hugged her tightly, his hands shaking, his body weak. "I thought I'd never see you again," he said in a cracked voice. "I've dreamed of this day for 10 years. Zena cried into his chest. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come back?" He pulled away and looked at her with deep sadness. "I wanted to. I tried. But they were watching. They said they'd hurt you if I ever came close. So I stayed hidden. I watched you grow through people who helped me. Every birthday, every school result. I knew. I kept praying one day you'd find me." Zena touched his face. "I got your call. That's how I knew something wasn't right." Olara smiled gently, tears in his eyes. "I called because I couldn't let you live a lie anymore. You deserved the truth." They sat together, holding hands, and talked for hours. Olare told her everything: how he escaped, how Mako helped him disappear, and how he always made sure someone was keeping an eye on her from afar. Zena listened carefully, her heart full of both pain and love. It was the reunion no one believed could happen. But it did. A father and daughter, torn apart by lies, found each other again, and in that quiet little house, they began to rebuild the bond stolen from them by fear. Zina held her father's hand tightly as he begged her not to say anything. His voice was filled with fear. "Zina, please. If you speak out, they'll come after you. They'll come after me. You don't know what they're capable of." He looked so tired, so afraid. But Zina couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She had lived with pain, confusion, and lies for 10 years. And now she knew the truth, a terrible truth hidden by the very people who were supposed to protect her. Zina shook her head gently. "Papa, they took you away from me. They made me believe you were gone forever. I can't let them keep winning. I won't stay silent." Her voice was calm but strong. When she returned home, she didn't go to the police or the press directly. She remembered what her father said, that these people were powerful and dangerous. So she contacted someone she trusted, a well-known investigative journalist who had once helped a friend. She sent everything she had, the photo, the letter, the voice recording, and details about the secret compound in Adudu, but she didn't sign her name. She stayed anonymous. A few days later, the story broke online. It was everywhere, on news sites, blogs, social media. The headline hit hard. The man declared dead for 10 years is alive, and his family buried a lie. People were shocked. Some cried. Others demanded answers. Reporters started digging. Officials began asking questions. Zina watched the news quietly from her room. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from relief. Finally, her father's story was out. The truth was no longer hidden. She didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was sure. She had made the right choice. She had chosen truth over silence, and no matter what came, she was ready. The news shook the entire country. Zina's story had gone viral, and the truth couldn't be hidden anymore. People were angry. Reporters gathered outside her family's home. Questions were flying everywhere. How could a whole family fake a man's death for 10 years? How could a mother lie to her daughter for so long? Zina's mother, Tara, lost everything. Her name was dragged in every newspaper. Her wealthy and powerful relatives turned their backs on her to protect themselves. The family's political power broke apart, and those who once stood together now started blaming each other. There was shouting, panic, and betrayal all around. It was chaos, but in the middle of it all, Zina felt calm. She had done what was right. She had brought out the truth, and now she didn't need revenge. When the police asked if she wanted to press charges, Zina said no. She didn't want to waste another minute fighting or living in anger. She simply walked away from her mother, from her broken family, and from all the lies they had built. She packed her bags and helped her father, Olare, move to a quiet, peaceful town by the coast. The sea was calm, and the people were kind. It was the perfect place to heal. There, in a small white house with a garden, father and daughter started over. They cooked together, laughed again, and slowly began to rebuild the love that was stolen from them for so many years. Zina no longer looked back. The pain, the lies, the betrayal, she left them behind. What mattered now was her father, their peace, and their new beginning. For the first time in years, she felt free, not just in her heart, but in her soul. 1 year after everything changed, Zina did something no one expected. She wrote a book, a powerful, emotional story titled The Call I Never Expected. It was about her father, the lie her family told, and how she found the courage to search for the truth. The book touched hearts across the country. People who had felt betrayed, silenced, or broken finally saw their pain in her words. It became a bestseller within weeks. Zina didn't stop there. She began speaking at events, on TV shows, and in schools. She talked about how it felt to lose her father, only to find him again, how betrayal by the ones you love most can either break you or make you stronger. She spoke with honesty, and people listened. Her story wasn't just sad, it was full of hope. It showed others that even when your whole world crashes, you can rise again. She used her voice to help others find theirs. People sent her letters, emails, and messages, thanking her for being brave enough to tell the truth. She started a support group for children of family betrayal, giving them a safe place to talk and heal. Now, every time Zina's phone rings, she doesn't feel fear. She doesn't freeze or wonder if it's another lie waiting to unfold. Instead, she feels calm. She knows who she is. She knows what she's survived. And she knows that no matter who is calling, she has the strength to face it. The The girl who once held onto a silent number for 10 years had now become a woman who turned her grief into grace and her pain into purpose. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll. Share it with someone who needs strength today. Hit that like, comment, I choose truth, and follow for more powerful stories that remind us, even in the darkest lies, truth always finds a voice.